Imagine a typical Tokyo apartment, a rabbit hutch, as they call them, tucked away in a gray, impersonal neighborhood. The morning begins not with sunlight, but with a relentless screech of an alarm clock and the monotonous, distant hum of traffic that seeps through the thin walls. This is where our hero Yuki wakes up. He is in his late 20s, but the fatigue in his eyes makes him look older. It is a deep-seated weariness that not even the strongest cup of black coffee can wash away. His life is a perfectly calibrated cycle of quiet despair, a crowded train to a cubicle in a nondescript office building, followed by the same crowded train back to the small, silent box. He is a cog in a vast, indifferent machine, and with each passing year he can feel the gears grinding him down, stripping away layers of who he once was. His apartment is a stark reflection of his internal state. It is minimalist to the point of being barren. White walls, a functional bed, a simple desk. There are no posters, no memorabilia, no personal touches. Nothing that would hint at a personality, a passion, or a past. It's a space designed for existence, not for living. One evening, after a particularly soul-crushing day at work, Yuki receives a call from his mother. She's cleaning out the family home and insists he finally deal with the boxes he left in their attic years ago. With a sigh, he agrees, dragging a dusty cardboard carton from the top of his own closet. The last vestige of his old life. He slices the brittle tape with a kitchen knife. The smell of old paper and forgotten times wafts out. At first, it is just old textbooks and childhood notebooks. But then, his fingers brush against something different. A thick, worn sketchbook with a cover stained with what might have been juice a long, long time ago. He opens it, and his gray world suddenly explodes in a riot of color and memory. The pages were a chaotic testament to a boy's passion. There was a lopsided but fiercely determined Luffy in his straw hat, drawn with a bold red marker. A Zoro with 3 swords, meticulously colored in with a green pencil, the blades looking impossibly cool. A Nami with her climber tacked, her smile carefully copied from a weekly Shonen Jump magazine. Tucked between the pages were yellowed magazine clippings of chapter releases, ticket stubs from the early One Piece movies, and faded photographs of action figures he'd saved up his allowance for months to buy. Yuki sat on the floor, surrounded by the ghosts of his childhood, and felt a profound ache in his chest. He was holding tangible proof of another person, the boy he used to be. A boy who believed in the great pirate era, who cheered for every new member of the Straw Hat crew, and who knew every one of their dreams and vows by heart. And then, at the very bottom of the box, beneath a stack of old comics, he found it. An envelope, yellowed with age, addressed in a child's careful, uncertain script. To Ikiro Oda-sensei, Japan. His hands trembled as he pulled out a single sheet of lined notebook paper. The writing was large, each character drawn with the intense concentration of a 10-year-old. Dear Oda-sensei, my name is Yuki. I am 10 years old. One Piece is the best thing ever in my life. I want to be like Luffy when I grow up, to find nakama who are loyal and to never ever give up. But sometimes, the adults around me say that dreams are for children, that I need to be a realist. Oda-sensei, please tell me, how do you stay like Luffy? How do you not forget who you are when the whole world is telling you to become someone else? Thank you for everything, your devoted fan Yuki. He never sent it. Why? Shame. The fear of seeming foolish. Or was it the first, insidious whispers of growing up already pressuring him to conform? Sitting there on the cold floor, surrounded by the artifacts of a forgotten self, Yuki felt a storm raging inside him. The plea from his 10-year-old self was louder and clearer than any therapy session or self-help book could ever be. He caught his reflection in the dark screen of his laptop, a tired, hollowed-out man he barely recognized. And in that moment, a decision crystallized within him. It wasn't a dramatic, loud resolution. It was a quiet, firm click, like a key turning in a long-locked door. He carefully, almost reverently, folded the letter and placed it into a crisp, new envelope. This time, he wrote the address with a steady hand. He had no idea if it would reach its destination, no expectation of a reply. That wasn't the point. The act itself was the point, a symbolic message in a bottle, thrown across the vast ocean of time to the person he used to be. I am sorry I made you wait so long, he whispered to the ghost of the boy with the colorful drawings, as he sealed the envelope shut. The next morning, on his way to the job that was slowly extinguishing his spirit, he made a detour. He walked up to the bright red postbox on the corner, hesitated for only a second, and then slipped the letter inside. It wasn't just an envelope. It was the first step on a new journey, his own personal grand line. The great adventure to reclaim his own soul had finally begun. Weeks bled into months. The initial fragile hope that had propelled Yuki to mail the letter began to wane. slowly buried under the daily avalanche of spreadsheets, commute schedules, and mind-numbing meetings. Life returned to its monotonous rhythm. The colorful explosion of his childhood memories was once again sealed away in the cardboard box, though now it sat in the corner of his room instead of the closet, a silent, accusing monument. He tried to make small changes. He dug out an old half-finished sketchbook and attempted to draw, but his hands, now accustomed to keyboards and touchscreens, felt clumsy and alien. The lines were stiff, the passion forced. It was a painful reminder of the gap between the boy he was and the man he had become. The world of the Straw Hats started to feel like a distant fictional dream, a story that belonged to someone else. Then, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, it happened. The day had been indistinguishable from the 100 that preceded it. Yuki was sorting through a stack of mundane bills and corporate flyers when his fingers brushed against a thick, cream-colored envelope. It was nestled between a pizza coupon and a water bill. His breath hitched. There was no return name, but the return address made his heart stop. Shueisha Company, Limited. For a long moment, he just stared at it, his mind refusing to process the reality of it. It felt like holding an artifact from another world, a world of adventure and dreams that had no place in his tiny, sterile apartment. With trembling, almost reverent hands, he carefully slit the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of high-quality paper. The script wasn't typed, it was handwritten in a confident, flowing ink. It wasn't a form letter, it felt personal. To Yuki, thank you for your letter. It found its way to my desk, and I was deeply moved by your words. You ask me a very difficult and important question. You wonder how to remain like Luffy in a world that often values conformity over passion. The truth is, Luffy is not strong because he never feels fear or doubt. He is strong because he feels those things, acknowledges them, and then takes the next step forward anyway. He trusts his crew, his nakama, to support him when he stumbles. He doesn't avoid the storm. He learns to sail through it. You should not feel ashamed of the path you have walked. Every experience, even the ones that feel like a detour, becomes a part of your map. The boy who drew those pictures and believed in those dreams is not gone. He is your navigator. Don't silence him. Listen to him. A dream doesn't have to be to become the Pirate King. It can be to find work that doesn't feel like a prison. It can be to create something, however small, that brings you joy. It can be to find your own nakama, people who see the real you and stand by you. Never forget, the One Piece is not just a treasure at the end of the journey. It is the journey itself. It is the person you become along the way. Keep sailing. The letter wasn't signed with a flamboyant Ikiro Oda, but the wisdom in the words, the profound understanding of the series' core philosophy, felt more authentic than any signature could. It didn't matter if it was from the man himself or a trusted assistant who had spent 2 decades immersed in his creator's world. The message was the same. Yuki read it once, then again, and a third time, his eyes welling up with tears he hadn't shed in years. It was as if a lifeboat had been thrown to him in the middle of his gray, quiet ocean. The words began to dismantle the walls he had built around himself, brick by brick. He trusts his crew to support him. Yuki realized he had been trying to navigate his life completely alone, seeing offers of help as weaknesses. He started reaching out. He called an old friend from university he hadn't spoken to in years. He awkwardly started conversations with colleagues beyond work-related topics. He was building his crew. Takes the next step forward anyway. The fear of failure was still there, a cold knot in his stomach. But now, instead of letting it paralyze him, he acknowledged it. Okay, I am terrified, he would say to himself. Now what? He enrolled in a single evening art class. It was a small step, but it was a step forward. The person you become along the way. He stopped berating himself for the wasted years. His boring office job had taught him discipline and patience. His loneliness had given him a deep appreciation for genuine connection. These weren't failures. They were islands he had visited on his voyage, each teaching him something valuable. The conflict wasn't over. His family questioned his frivolous art class. His boss noticed his mind wasn't 100% on the corporate grind. Doubt still whispered in his ear during sleepless nights. But now, he had an answer. He had a new heading on his mental map. He was no longer just drifting. He had received a message from the world he thought he'd lost. A message that told him it was never lost at all. It was just waiting for him to pick up the map again. The greatest treasure wasn't at the end of the journey. The courage to start the journey was the treasure itself. And for the first time in a very long time, Yuki felt truly, genuinely rich. A year passed, not a blink of an eye, but not an eternity either. Precisely the amount of time Yuki needed to stop being a passenger in his own life and become its captain. His room was transformed. On the wall hung his old childhood drawing of Luffy, now framed, flanked by several of his own fresh sketches. They were imperfect, his technique still clumsy, but they pulsed with an energy that had been entirely absent from the lifeless charts he produced at the office. He had not become a famous artist, he hadn't even changed jobs, not yet. But everything had changed on the inside. His office fortress was no longer a prison. It had become his training ground, a place where he gathered resources for his great voyage. Every boring task became an exercise in discipline. Every unpleasant interaction became a test of his newfound resolve. He no longer felt like a cog. He was a spy in enemy territory, a secret agent for his own dream. He had found his nakama. His old friend Kenta, with whom he had once dreamt of sailing around the world, was back in his life. They revived their tradition of Saturday hikes, and during one of them, sitting by a campfire, Yuki told him about the letter. Kenta grinning, so the old man Oda himself blessed your rebellion. Not everyone gets so lucky, Yuki laughing. He just reminded me that I am the one who should be at the helm, not someone else. At work, he had struck up a conversation with a girl from the design department, Saya. She had caught him sketching during his lunch break. Saya, I never thought analysts had such a creative side. That is really good. Yuki, no longer hiding the sketchbook. It is a work in progress, just trying to remember how to sail. The conflict wasn't gone, it had just changed shape. It was no longer a desperate, internal scream against his entire existence. Now, it was a series of tactical skirmishes. His parents, upon hearing he was spending his savings on art classes, expressed their concern. Mother over the phone, her voice laced with worry. Yuki, are you sure this is wise? A hobby is one thing, but at your age, you need stability. Yuki, his voice calm but firm. I know, Mom. But this stability was making me disappear. I need this to feel alive. He had a new mantra, borrowed from the letter. The one piece is the journey itself. He wasn't waiting for a magical future where he was a successful artist. The treasure was in the act of drawing, in the struggle to improve, in the simple joy of creating something that hadn't existed before. The treasure was the quiet confidence growing in his chest. The final test came at work. His boss, Mr. Tanaka, called him into his office. He slid a promotion packet across the desk. A higher position, more money, but also more hours, more responsibility, and the certain burial of his artistic pursuits. Mr. Tanaka, you've been more focused lately, Yuki. It shows. This is the next logical step. The corporate ladder awaits. Yuki looked at the packet. For a moment, the old fears surged. Security, approval, the correct path. But then he saw it, taped to the edge of his monitor. A tiny postage stamp-sized photocopy of his childhood Luffy drawing. He looked back at his boss, a genuine peaceful smile on his face. Yuki, thank you, Tanaka-san. That means a lot, but I am going to have to decline. Mr. Tanaka stunned, decline. May I ask why? Yuki, I've decided to chart a different course. He didn't hand in a dramatic resignation letter. He didn't burn any bridges. He simply gracefully turned down the gilded cage. It was the most pirate-like thing he had ever done. That evening, he sat at his desk with a fresh piece of paper. He wrote a new letter. Dear Oda-sensei, or to the kind soul who wrote back, a year ago you sent a message to a man who was lost at sea. You told me the treasure was the journey. You were right. I am still on my voyage. I haven't found the one piece yet, but I have found my crew. I have found my map, and for the first time, I am the captain of my own ship. The storms are less frightening when you are the one holding the wheel. Thank you for being my eternal log post. With eternal gratitude, Yuki, the man who is finally learning to sail. He did not send this letter. He folded it carefully and placed it inside the old cardboard box with his childhood treasures. It was a message to his future self, a new entry in his logbook. The final scene, Yuki stands on his small balcony, looking out at the sea of city lights twinkling in the Tokyo night. He is still in the same apartment. He still has the same job. But nothing is the same. He is no longer waiting for his life to begin. He is living it. He is navigating. He is sailing. And the vast, starry sky above him no longer feels like an empty void, but an ocean of infinite possibility. His grand line was right here, all along.